Um, Thank you for tonight and for being part of the celebrations. It feels like almost a double celebration for being released. The poem, I'm going to read 3 poems tonight, and as I was explaining to Susie earlier on, I haven't actually read them out because they're their second draft. So this is a good airing. I should actually just stand here with a pen as well, really, and start making marks. So the first poem is called How in Shadowed Landscapes. And when I wrote this, I think where this was going is this is going to be one in a series of walks through woods, I guess, which is not an original idea, but I am quite fascinated with woods, and they often remind me of my sort of motherland, Poland. So I think this is where it's probably going to go, and this is probably part 1 of the first sequence. How in Shadowed Landscapes. Our footsteps are thumbprints, filigrees of mother tongues, adoption and adolescence, detaching in silvered leaves. Our footsteps are signatures to what we write with feet on mossed ground and needled waters of pine leaf pushing further into the wood and grain of this walking, in which language forgets the scaffolds and etymology of branches folding our distances and stories as we step this earth away from the natural order of things, rearranged in this coppice of snow-drifted light in autumn, delicate flowers still in fruit, marriage looping like sea swallows in the long soaring of seasons, the wind behind them, fierce in this landscape, playing pinched strings of violin between foliage and ghosts, and grandfather's fingers on piano keys pressing his own concealment of camps and the turf where bones grow in their beautiful achromatic architecture, stems loosening. In slayed gloss of thicket, gorse, tameless fern, our speech no longer seems important. We are small insects, tiny organisms yet to be found, breathing this spiked, softly fenced history. And the next one is called Panorama. And again, it is a landscape of sorts, quite a distorted mesh of landscape, I think. Sometimes it's always interesting, you write something, you think, something's trying to come out. I'm not sure what's trying to come out here, but it would be interesting if you can get a sense of what is trying to come out in this sort of panorama. So it's called Panorama. This is a distorted landscape, and you place it in your mouth. A field of cowering seed, and a field of fingers and feet, a field of sheep grazing on the cliff of your sepia tongue. You are striving to join these disparate elements of language, dot to line, for a larger diction to describe what is distinct or possible in the subtle stammer of your mind, this alchemy of reason flooding in the estuary of a body a little too weak now to swallow the verbs of our doing, the push and drive of our knowable selves, and the silhouettes we make with our hands on grained walls, pulse and shape, vernal and vined, in radius of an alphabet lost inside you. I kiss your forehead in this exchange of parenthood, all ocean and fire knotting, darting birds and strangers among us. Our syntax, umbilical, plural, uncut. And the last one there's a bit of a strange story to this, but it's called Seamless, and I actually took the Ginkgo Prize. They did an eco-poetry workshop, which I actually taught on one, and then I decided I wanted to be a student and be taught by somebody else, because it's just so lovely, actually. And it was one of Maria Sedney's workshops, and it was all about this idea of unravelling and threads, and literally, like the day before, I picked my son up from school, and I mean, his jumper, he's got this V-neck jumper, and literally I just pulled this thread, and it just all fell apart. It was like, what have you been doing? And literally I took a picture, and it was just completely destroyed. And I just said, you know, what have you been doing? But anyway, and it just kind of, you know, I had that image in my head in an odd way. And I think that was one of the things that is kind of going in that poem, but fundamentally it's about, you know, the seamlessness of nature and the world we live in. So it's called Seamless. What matters is this rupture in what appears continuous and uninterrupted. The soundscape of a seam unravelling, like the neckline of my son's jumper. He pulls on this cotton, an endless epistemology of woven blue threads loosening, and woven blue waters flooding, and ice blue caps in submission, and woven air freckled with carbon, and the woven dead barks of deforestation, and the hormones and dry follicles of rivers and rain, impairments, antibodies pollinating like androids, the glacial genders of identities, the cockroaches and ants, the fossils and fucking, a sun's tentative luminosity on shells and skins and childhoods, and all this bundle of fragility jostle like his footsteps in a playground, improvising to the pulling and blowing of rough blue tide, and feet in escape, and blue notes slipping like the momentum of jazz, as it moulds familiarity into dusks of unknown, and our species in this surf join the seam of school days with the seams of books and their margins, and the margins of the nameless to the boundaries of your budding small face, and the margins of earth with the field of digression. I am your magpie, your wolf, your bee, your metals and stones of rapture, your very own extinction. I am your animal of mothering and making good, as we lie uncharted at bedtime asking, who is the space-fat angel dragon? What slave of earth have we all imprisoned? What spheres fibre our hands as we place them above our heads, in reading, in greed, in this strange singing called planet? What of this knot between us, releasing and refolding, such sea waves inside, their gravitational urge for this departure, a tenderness hanging like the hundreds of threads from that jumper I've been, irreparable, impossible now, as your eyes cage, in possession, like this brittle earth, which is our sleep, disturbed. Thank you. And I forgot to say there is a line from the Iron Man, the space-bat angel dragon, that we were reading, and it just kind of fitted in. But anyway, thank you.